Right, so I'd like to thank obviously the executive committee and other volunteers who have helped make this event possible today. I'd like to thank Seek Channel who are covering the program for us. And also Dr. Savinda Arora, who will be here later on taking little interviews with everyone at the end. Thanks also to the caterers who will be arriving very shortly. And of course to the Guru Nanak School, who have let us use their wonderful facility here. So, today's main topic will be close to all of our hearts. But first, I'd like to invite a very, very good friend of mine, Dr. Peter Chadha, who's going to speak for a few minutes about vitamins and how important they are in our daily scheme of life. Okay, so thank you. Please welcome Dr. Peter Chadha.
First, can I thank the Patwar Brotherhood? I'm very pleased to be able to give a few minutes on such an important subject. So my story, hopefully, the first thing we should say is food is medicine. This is Hippocrates said millennia ago, what we eat is what we eat. It makes a big, big impact on us. So if you move to the first slide, can you do that for me? Let's do that there, right. My background is, about 30 years ago, I did a PhD in chemistry. I was doing pharmaceutical drug design. But then somehow in my life, I left the world of science and I went into IT. So I became a technologist. So for the last 20 or 30 years, I've been doing consulting assignments around the globe talking about IT. But and my PhD was actually on the blood-brain barrier, and I did it for SmithKline Beecham. SmithKline Glaxo, sorry, is now called. I had no interest. So today we're talking about vitamins. I had no interest in vitamins whatsoever. I was naive like everyone here probably who doesn't know about vitamins. But in 1999, I had a daughter who had a lot of health issues. Her issues were very, very severe. And during the process of growing up with that child, I suddenly learned how important nutrition is. When you can't get the nutrition into you, how big an impact that is. And actually, when we get these blood tests and results from the doctors, how much vitamins can affect those different results and how they can affect all of our lives. So, back in 1999, I discovered the importance of calcium in our diet. You know, we all hear that calcium, let's have it in milk and all the rest of it. But I actually learnt how vital it is, and I really looked at it from a well-being point of view. So that's led me on that journey where I am today. I became a researcher looking for solutions for my daughter. And all I can tell you, I joined the board of her condition is a special condition. I joined the board of that condition. I've met many cases right around the globe. And all the steps that we have taken have made a massive, massive difference. And most of that is just vitamins and nutrition. Because when you have a genetic condition, there's a limit to what you can actually do. There are no drugs for a lot of the problems. So we made a big difference. So we only have a few minutes today. So I just thought to myself, what's the most important thing I should be telling an audience from North Indian region? Yeah, what are the most important? Actually, they apply to everyone, but more particularly, if you're Patwari or non, just if you're from the Indian subcontinent, what are the three most important things I can tell you today that are worth taking as supplements? And the biggest one by far, I want to repeat this. The most important thing you can do is take vitamin D. Vitamin D comes with calcium supplements, but it affects so many different things. So typically, as we get older, the doctors will recommend something called Calci-Chew, especially for ladies, because they're worried about osteoporosis, the bones and skeletons and what have you. That's what they will say. But vitamin D is much, much, much more than bones. It is a tonic for your whole body. It's actually almost a hormone. And this hormone is produced by our interaction with sunlight. So today, we have dark skin, We live in a region of the world which we live in a latitude where we don't get the right sort of light. Even if we were getting sunlight, we're not going out frolicking in the sunlight because we're busy putting on sun protection and all sorts of cream. Sun is a very vital, important thing for our health. And if you are of Indian origin, it is much, much more important that we get whatever sun we do. So I just wanted to talk about, like we might have skipped. Let me see the slides. Okay, I'll just tell you a little bit about the sort of functions that vitamin D can perform. It is really vital in our immune system. If you want to be protected from coughs and colds and all the rest of it, everyone says, vitamin C. Let me get vitamin C. I'll have honey and lemon in the cupboard. They are important. Vitamin C is important. But generally, the UK, if people are having an average diet in the UK, vitamin C is not as lacking as many of the other things. In 1960 or 1950s, when this vitamin C was a huge issue, there were differences. People weren't getting fresh fruit and vegetables, and there were all sorts of other problems. But vitamin C is important, but it's not the most important. The most important is vitamin D. So it affects your bones. It affects your immune system. There's evidence that it's very beneficial in cancer because immunity, having a strong immune system means that you don't get cancer. Even diabetes, there's autoimmune disease. The latest research coming out from 2019 is vitamin D plays a role in diabetes. Diabetes affects us. Now they say Indian population, huge diabetes problem. Why? Our skin, right? And let me tell you some other things. 30 minutes of sunlight for a white person in the region of the world where we live is 10,000 IU. 10,000 IU stands for international units. It's a standard way of measuring vitamin D. So half an hour for a white person in the sunlight in the summer is 10,000. The doctors in this country, when you have calcium, has about 200 or 400 IU. I can't remember the exact figures. They depend on the particular version. I'm just telling you that half an hour of sunlight for a white person is 10,000, and the doctors are prescribing 200 a day. In winter, even white people in this country do not get much vitamin D, and they don't go out. We don't live in the jungle. We don't live in the forests. So it's very, very vital to have high doses of vitamin D. There are very few exceptions. There are one or two exceptions, but I would say to you that if you're not having vitamin D, that's what you need to do. Now, that's Boots. At the top, I've looked at a Boots remedy. That's 400 IU. I think this calcium is 400 IU. This is one that I've actually formulated in the last few months. I've been working on developing my own supplements, and I'm going to be targeting different types of communities. That's why I've called it Bespoke Biotics. And you can see there are people selling 20,000 IU. And in India, they sell 60,000 IU. And a lot of people in this country take vitamin D as a injection because vitamin D lasts a bit of time. My recommendation to most of you is 5,000 IU per day is what you should be having. And that will help you in so many different aspects of life. Also, we're going to hear about talking about heart. These are all, it is vital for so many systems. It is incredible. Even your eyes, even your sexual health, all of these things are dictated by vitamin D. So number one supplement, please think about it, vitamin D. Even if you're taking a multivitamin, vitamin D is something you should consider as extra to that. Second one I want to talk about, again, looking particularly in the South Asian community, what are the problems that we have? Another one we have is vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is involved in so many different bodily functions. It's to do with the nervous system. I'll look at my notes here. And generally, and it comes in products like meats and eggs, which is why typically, if we're having more vegetarian food, we'll probably have less B12. I think B12 is in certain nuts as well. So It works with your brain, preventing loss of neurons. It works in the nervous system. It reduces fatigue. It supports bone health. It supports anemia. A big issue we have in our community is we have a lot of people who've got anemia, especially in women. Funny enough, there's a huge issue with anemia. And people say, I need iron tablets. Iron tablets are no doubt important, but this is equally important. When you talk about a condition, it's not one thing, it's a number of different things. So the second recommendation I've got for you is vitamin B12. And now I need to show you something else. Again, when the government says, this is the right amount to have per day as a supplement, you have to take all of these with a pinch of salt, because a lot of the studies that were done on vitamins were done way back in the 1950s. They're also to do with the white population. They're also to do with diets that we don't have today, lifestyles that we don't live today. A lot of the evidence, because when doctors accept something, they need huge clinical studies. They don't accept studies of 50 people, 30 people, a few test tube results. They're not interested. I understand that. I'm a chemist, I'm a scientist, I understand that. But the reality is a lot of the data on which we base evidence on is old. Also, when you get your blood test results, they'll give you a score of vitamin B, and then they'll say according to your age. Right? So they'll say at 50 years, at 20 years it was this score, at 50 years at this score. You should question, why should my thing be less at 50? Shouldn't it be the same as a 20-year-old? Because that's optimal health. So bear these things in mind when you're looking at it. So the thing I want to say is, if you look at this Holland and Barrett, in this case, vitamin B12, they do have higher doses, but this is 100 milligrams. Micrograms. The one that I've been preparing is 1,000 micrograms. And it's a natural format. There are two different formats. One is synthetically made, and one is a natural format. And that's what I've been focusing on. So the third thing I want to talk about, which is very particularly important in the age of coronavirus, and it's one I'm sure you've never heard of, because I never heard of it, and I was an asthmatic all my life, suffering with terrible asthma, and this has been very beneficial to me, so I want all of you to hear about it. So in food, in protein, we have things called amino acids. There are different types of amino acids. One of these amino acids is called cysteine. So this substance on here is called NAC, N-acetylcysteine. Unfortunately, the names get a bit complicated when they're not A, B, C, D, but that's not important. NAC is important for you to know. NAC works with the lungs, right? It's very, very good for lung health. Congestive lung failure is all these symptoms, asthma. It breaks up all of the sputum in there so that your lungs can be free. But it works on your liver. So if you go to a hospital A&E department today, they all have N-acetylcysteine, because if people take an overdose of paracetamol, this is what they administer. This is the substance that disappears if you take too much paracetamol. So it shows you how protective that can be. Your liver is really the master of so many things in your body. This is also a huge antioxidant. When we call things antioxidants, what does that mean? It just means that in the body it's protecting, if you like, rogue elements that form just through day-to-day living. By the things that we are consuming, when we burn our energy, we are forming these things called free radicals. Antioxidants pick them up. So as we age, we get more aging because we have more and more oxidation going, oxidative stress. So one of the ways of preventing that is having an antioxidant. This thing here, NAC, is an amazing antioxidant. It creates something called glutathione in the body. Wonderful thing to have. So here we've talked about lung, we talked about liver, it's good for your skin, but it does something which is really, really, really weird. Nothing to do with any of these things. There's scientific research showing that this substance, which is used for paracetamol overdose, will also stop you from unusual behavior habits, biting your nails, pulling your hair, OCD, ADHD. They're really things that you say, well, what the hell has a food supplement got to do with biting my nails? I've been biting my nails whenever I'm stressed since the age of 6. People will say that. There is plenty of evidence. You can look it up for yourself to look at this thing. So this is why I wanted to tell you about a wonderful new thing that you will never have heard of because no doctor's ever talked about it. There's plenty of people on the web you can find, but this is what I wanted to tell you about, 3 things to consider. There is also some papers that have come out in the last couple of weeks talking about coronavirus and how NAC is one of the substances, a nutraceutical, which will protect against coronavirus. So when we talk about viruses, we're just trying to keep our body strong. Yeah, if our immune system is strong to begin with, we shouldn't really have problems. And I can only tell you through personal experience, today, where I am from 20 years ago, I never used to take any of this stuff. I never believed in any of this stuff because I thought, oh, I eat good food and I buy organic products and I'm this and that. Well, let me just tell you one last reason for why we need these things today, and then I'll end. Today, all of the food we get is treated, right? It is distributed. Sometimes you're eating an apple which is over 1 year old. When I worked in my IT job, I worked for a company that sells agrochemicals. When you buy your Tesco potato, it's had 75 treatments in this country. Even if it's organic, the chance of cross-contamination is very high. So in these things, they put weed killers. There's a very important weed killer called glycophosphate. They put that in nearly everything you eat, and it's very, very difficult. You can't wash it off. You literally have to soak your vegetables in that for 24 hours with some lemon juice, and maybe you can get it clear. It's not a straightforward thing to remove these things. So when you consume all of these, they affect our guts. And our guts are full of bacteria, which are like plants. They're living in our body. And that is actually affecting how we can get food. And, I could argue, why do we need to have this NAC stuff at all? Don't I eat chicken? Why shouldn't I get it from there? The reason I'm telling you is that human beings are a combination of your body and the bacteria that live in us. The bacteria do very important work. Finished. Okay, I've given time. So hopefully 3 things you got today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Peter Chadha, for that enlightening talk.